That's all right. Hey, everybody out there, this is Peter Lisowski for the live Q&A webinar here tonight. And we got a bunch of people pouring in here from, boy, all over the place, all over the world. So this is good to see. I just want to check just to make sure you can hear me okay, and you can see the screen. The screen should have a live Q&A webinar, and there is a free offer for you tonight. Report I put together, the top 6 reasons why people don't buy and what to do about it, which I know is a common problem for just about everybody out there that's building a business and things like that. So this is a good report. I thought about this a lot and wanted to give you some good tips and tricks on that kind of thing. So, but just for some business here. Hey, Robin. Yeah, it has been a while. Guys, I'm glad. It's good to be back. There's just a lot of stuff going on, both business and personal. But I am back, and we'll be doing some more of these free webinars here coming up now as we get through this month. Obviously, in December gets a little difficult with the holidays and things, but we'll probably do one at least in December. But if you can hear me and see me, just or see the screen, just say yes. I can hear and see you, so I know that we're okay. And the other thing you can start doing is putting your questions, as we always do with this. This is going to be a question and answer webinar. So we're doing this live. It's just off top of your head and top of my head. So it's going to be questions you have. Those burning questions. Maybe there is something that's really a sticking point in your business as far as, well, how do I approach people? How do I talk to them? How do I'm have this particular situation. I'm not sure how to, convey that to them. How do I tell a story? How do I close a sale? Just anything and everything related to that. And I'll cover that as best as I can. So go ahead and put your Debbie. Great. I'm glad to have you in here. Patricia, good to see you. Keha, good to see you, brother. Joe, good to see you. All you guys are putting in Joyce. Nice to, yes, good. I can hear you. So Joyce, can you also see? I just want to make sure, guys, you can see me and hear, and you can hear me and see the screen too as well. So Debbie, good to see. I see you're saying yes. Okay, Ivan says I can see and hear. So just make sure, just put I can see and hear. I just want to make sure we're good. And then after you do that, guys, I'm glad to have you. I'm excited about doing this again, getting back on track with some of these free webinars for you. But I want to, make sure you're typing in your questions there. So we're doing that. Orca, nice to have you aboard. One thing I wanted to address too, while we're waiting for people to put their questions in, is we're going to go for about 60 minutes tonight. So I'll answer as many questions as you guys have, and we'll go from there. But I have, if you can see the screen there, there is a link on the bottom, that bit.ly/no buying. If you, and there's also a pop-in offer. There should be an offer too that has it says the top 6 reasons why people don't buy. And it says free report and a big yellow button that says download now under the pop-ins tab. If you have that, you can go ahead and click on that, or you can type in this link in a different tab in your browser. It'll bring up this particular page. You just click on that blue button, click here for free instant access, put in your name and email, and you'll get this report, the top 6 reasons why people don't buy, and then what do you do about it? Because there's some commonalities that, one of them I'm sure you guys have always heard is I can't afford it, right? Well, I addressed that in there. That's one of them. One of the top 6. So it goes through and really kind of give you a crystal clear understanding of why people are not buying, and then what to do about it. So I talk in there of what you should be doing. Some of it is a little bit of homework on your part of writing things down, getting things crystal clear on how you're going to handle these 6 items going forward. Okay, so we have a lot of people. Boy, great. A lot of people poured in. A lot of people I can see and hear you. That's great. So let's we'll type in your questions. This is really it's your time with me and with everybody. You can see everybody else's their what they're writing too, and it may stimulate a question on your part. So go ahead and type your questions into the chat box, and I will read the question off, and then I'll do my best to answer the question. And that way, in the recording, because you signed up for this, you registered, you'll get an automatic replay of this recording that will come to you, so you can have that and you can listen to it. You can, as many times as you want. So, but that way, if I read the question and I answer the question, that way you've got the full thing. So we'll start with our first question here while you guys are typing in different questions of what you would like to get answered. And again, the way we run this here is I'm hoping that you'll do it publicly. So Debbie has a question, and I'm just going to say this is Debbie's question. If you're bashful or a little bit timid, you can do it in private with this, and I won't say your name. But here's the thing. I want you guys to understand one thing, and that is, you know what? I have asked a million dumb questions in my life, and what I've figured out over time is there are no dumb questions. So just because you think it might be a dumb question, ask it anyway, because I guarantee you there's probably 80 or 90% of the other people that are in this webinar that are wondering the same thing, and they're just a little too timid to ask that question. So there is no dumb question in here. There's only questions, good questions, and any question is a good question. So don't be bashful, don't be timid. Ask your questions at whatever is burning on your mind, whatever's a challenge, whatever's a hump that you're trying to get over in your business and you can't quite figure it out. I'll do my best to help you out there. And we'll go for here till about 6 p.m. on my time. And so I'm in Southern California. Some of you guys are on the East Coast, so that'll be till 9 p.m. your time. All right, we'll start with Debbie. Debbie had the first question here. She says, so what do you say? Have previously talked to them, gave them water, and now have been several months since the last conversation. Okay. Or have talked to someone in the store, have not followed up. Help. Okay, so let me, and some of these guys, I may need a little more help from you in clarifying, or I may say, did I answer that question, for you? Did that cover it? And you let me know yes or no. Okay, so let's talk about this first one, Debbie, about, well, what do you say when you've, previously talked to them, gave them water, and it's now been several months since the last conversation. So this is my understanding is, you did the water, you did the sampling, you're in Kangen Water. And basically they said no initially, and you just want to follow up with them, or did you, I guess I'm wondering is, did you not follow up with them and it's just been several months since the last conversation? But I'll take it as you did. If you didn't, that's okay too, because there's a different way to approach that. But let's take the example of, well, you did and they said no. What I would do is I would reach out to them again and just say, here's the thing, the key thing to remember, guys, is the very first thing, if you have not done these things, this is what you have to do. Okay. Especially this is for any product or service, but for Debbie and everybody else in Kangen Water is always, if someone is interested in trying the Kangen Water, you ask them, why is it that you want to try this? Why do you want to drink this water? Okay. Because remember, I've said, many times, and that is there's a difference between a possibility and a prospect, or a possibility prospect. A possibility is someone who's expressed interest, but they're not a prospect yet. They only become a prospect when they tell you why they want to try your product or service. And in your case, Debbie, why they want to try the water. And when they tell you why, okay, now they become a prospect. And this is a rule of thumb in selling. You can't sell possibilities anything. You can sell prospects, you can't sell possibilities, because they're not ready. They haven't told you why, and you can't address that why during the sampling process with the water. So if you know what their why is, like for example, let's say they had a health condition, or let's say they were looking for a business, but we'll cover the health condition because these things are mutually exclusive. Okay. Let's say they had high blood pressure. So you can come back to them and you can say, hey, I just was checking in to see how your high blood pressure is doing. Just wanted to make sure you're okay. I know you did try the Kangen water. And if it had some benefit for them, they would have known it from the results of the, lowering of high blood pressure. But if you haven't done any of that kind of stuff, then you're going to have to kind of start with, back to ground zero. And then it's just like, hey, I want to touch base with you again. I know you tried the water. I didn't really understand why you were doing this. So maybe we could, if I could call you and find out, why did you try the water in the first place? It's kind of you may want to even say, Debbie, hey, I'm doing some marketing research and I'm trying to understand from some of my prospects, why they're trying the water. So you could do it that way too, and just rekindle the conversation and get it going. If they tell you why at that time, then you can say, well, okay, now that we know what your health condition is, would you like to get back on the water to see if we can do something about that to help it? Okay. So Debbie, I hope that helps in your answer there of your question. I don't know what you said, or have talked to someone in the store and have not followed up. So is this where you drop the ball? If it is where you drop the ball, then here's the thing. The best policy on all of that for all of you guys is honesty. So let's say Debbie went to somebody in the store. Her name was Rebecca, and she talked to him in the store, and then she didn't follow up, and it's been weeks. Well, guess what, Debbie, what I would do is I'd call up Rebecca and say, Rebecca, I'm really sorry. I dropped the ball. That was totally my mistake. I feel bad about it because I know this water is really, really good. And it's my responsibility to get it out to everybody and make sure that you get a chance to try it. And I didn't do that for you. And for that, I feel bad about that. So I'm sure you do. And so just show her some vulnerability. Show her that, hey, I'm really sorry. Would you like to, try this water free of charge for the next, whatever time you do it, for the next 30 days or 3 weeks or whatever you do. But that's what I would do, is just be really honest with the people. Guys, here's the thing. I've done a lot of radio shows, a lot of different things. And I tell people all the time that are listening, there is nothing in sales that will replace being authentic and being genuine. All of this other garbage that they teach you out there about sales scripts and trial closes and objection handling and all this other stuff is a bunch of goo gaga. It just is. I mean, I'm telling you, if you are talking to people, it's refreshing when people know you're authentic and genuine and you're coming from your heart. That is the best way to sell, in addition to telling stories. Okay. So, that's the key thing there. And that's what you want to do. So Debbie, hopefully that answers your questions. If not, go ahead and, put some more stuff back in the chat box, and then we'll go from there. All right. Ivan. Hey, Ivan, how you doing, man? I've seen you all over Facebook. You're doing really good at doing your postings and things. So good job there. And hopefully you're getting some traction on that too. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but you get some responses. So Ivan, you say, I have people who think they can buy Kangen water or equivalent at health store. How do I get them to understand it's not bottled water or another filter system? How do I educate in a short few minutes? Okay, so here's what I do on that, Ivan. You're another Kangen water person. And on that particular one, you can tell them, so there is alkaline water like at Trader Joe's and different places like that. But what I educate people on in my demos, I tell them a story. It's a continual set of stories. But I say, I got a story I want to share with you that I found out. There's two different types of water. There's alkaline water and there's alkalized water. Now, alkaline water is made by putting minerals in the water. That's the kind of water that you see in the grocery stores that you can buy at Trader Joe's and other places. Alkalized water is done with electricity, where the alkalinity is caused by the water being split in our machine. Now, here's something that, and this is the way you talk to me, just say, I just want you to be aware of this. When you're drinking alkaline water, there's a danger to that. And here's why. Okay, now I got their attention by saying there's a danger, right? Because that raised the crock brain. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I say, here's why, which piques their curiosity. So what you say is, when you add minerals to water, you artificially pump the water with minerals, okay? You're drinking excessive amount of minerals that can get into your bloodstream. Now, and Ivan, you can go do the research on this. Google the pH of your blood. Your blood pH is it's a very, very tight band. I think it's like 7.2 something to 7.23. It's very tight. It has to be very regulated, okay? The problem and the danger with these alkaline waters is when they drink that, it can raise the pH of their blood. And if it does that, that can cause some very bad things to happen, like their organs can shut down and they could die, okay? And there is no FDA regulation for that, okay? There is no FDA regulation for alkaline water. So it's something that they need to be aware of. And if you go out into Google and, get some data to that, which there's stuff out there, because that's where I got this from, is let them know that the only safe way to drink alkaline water is done by electricity, alkalized water, and that's the kind of thing that you have, okay? So what you're doing basically, Ivan, is you're putting the doubt in their mind about drinking that mineral alkaline water versus drinking your safe alkalized water, okay? So hopefully that'll, that way you can educate them in a few short minutes. You can have a little, one-page flyer that you give to them too. That's the differences between alkaline and alkalized. And so they get educated on that. That's something you can leave behind. Okay. So Ivan, hope that answered your question there. Bud and Sandy, hey, how are you guys doing, man? I haven't talked to you since last Thursday. I'm glad you're on. I always enjoy having you guys on. All right. So Bud and Sandy says, we offer the people water. How do we politely ask why they would want to try it? Okay, so I think you're asking, well, why are you interested in this? Well, here's what I do. This is Bud and Sandy, and this is true for all you guys. I say, just as a general rule of thumb in human nature, it's good to be curious. Curiosity killed the cat, but it certainly didn't kill all of us. It's good to be curious. And the thing about it is, this is what I say and I have this as a conversation starter in my Crockburn selling formula. And I think Bud and Sandy, you're in there. But one of the things you can say is, something like, let's say you're talking to a lady named Sally. You say, Sally, I'm just curious. Okay. That's like a really good way. Excuse me. That's a really good way to, get them to focus on you, with their brain to focus on you, and then ask the question, hey, I'm really curious, Sally, why is it that you want to try this water? That's very polite. That's non-intrusive. That way, and then just be quiet and see what they say. People, the thing about it is, I have not had people be very protective if they have a health condition. I mean, there's a reason why they came to try this water. Remember, and Bud and Sandy, from, going through the story selling course with inner dialogue, the core desire versus core doubt. They may have some core doubts about it, like, well, what if it doesn't really work, or this is hocus pocus? But they have a whole core desire. If they're not healthy, their core desire is they want to get healthy again. Okay. And so they are driven by looking for things that could do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a multi-billion-dollar natural supplement industry that we have in the United States today. People are looking for ways to naturally get healthy without going under the knife of the doctor. Okay. Just is, because we have these big industries that support that factually. Okay. So if you just say, hey, I'm just really curious, why is it that you want to try this water? I'm just would like to know, and then just be quiet and let them answer. And that's a good way to do that. So I think hopefully that answered your question, Bud and Sandy, on what it is that you can do there. So Debbie says, "Hey, thanks. That will help." Good, Debbie. I'm glad. That's good. Ivan says, "Thanks." So Ivan, hopefully that helps. He said, "Great advice." Yeah, that a lot of that stuff, Ivan, I was talking about. It'll work for you. You'll see. It'll just flat out work. Okay. Elizabeth. So guys, keep typing in your questions here for you guys that are on here, because we have we've got some time here. And I don't want to hear the crickets. So if you have some questions, don't. And again, there is no dumb question. There is no bad question. The only bad questions are the ones you don't that you don't ask. Okay. So Button Sandy said, "Thank you, Peter. You've hit a big gap in our sharing." Good. I'm glad. So I'm just curious. It's really, really powerful. Just like I always tell you guys, it's like, hey, I got this story I want to tell you. Would you like to hear it? I'm telling you every single time people go, yeah, what's the story? This is the way to sell. It is, I'm telling you, all of the stuff that we're talking about here is the most natural way to sell and the way to approach people in a natural, humanistic way. Okay. That I keep harping on this. I know I sound contrarian to the way all these gurus talk, but again, you got to remember how many of these gurus are actually in businesses and built them from zero up to in a 7-figure business. Okay. I've done that a few times. And the thing is that people who are really good in sales, they will tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you. And this is why I speak about this, in webinars all over the world and radio shows and, work with you guys, because I really, really want you to learn how to do this and understand how natural it is. It may not be easy to start, but it's very, very natural when you're telling people stories and you're, inquisitive and curious and just striking up dialogues. I learned this over the years, and it wasn't always in my business. I learned it over the years of just striking up conversations with everybody. I'll talk to bartenders, I'll talk to waiters and waitresses, I'll talk to anybody. And the thing is that when you learn how to just dialogue with people and tell stories and just have fun with it, be really curious about them. And like, I'll give you a tip before I answer Elizabeth's question here. One of the best questions, guys, and I want you to write this down, okay? One of the best questions you can ever ask someone when you are face-to-face with them, and you are like, if you're in a networking situation or you're just on the street. I do this. I don't know if you guys have this, but out here in California, we have these guys, the men and women, they're like homeless people. Well, they're not homeless. They're in a shelter, but they're out there. They're always, asking for money. And you know what? Here's the thing, man. I'll give them money, but that's not why I go up and talk to them to give them money. I go up and talk to them because I want to know their story. I want to talk to them to get to know them. And I want to let them know that they're real human beings just like me. And so what if they're sitting there asking for money? It doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm telling you guys, whoever you talk to, this is the question you always ask. If you want to get into a really good dialogue, and Bud and Sandy, for you on the big gap in sharing, if you want to find out about people where they're going to remember you and they're going to know that you actually are a relatable person that's credible, ask them this question. So what's your story? And ask it in a way that's a question. So, hey, Jenny, I know we just met here. And I even say this, like if we're in a networking thing, if people, because, guys all the time, they say, well, what do you do for a living? What do you do? I don't do that. That's a bunch of baloney. You say, hey, Jenny, you know what? I know a lot of people in here, they go, what do you do for a living? I don't understand that question. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I'd like to really know what's your story. What is it that caused you to get into what you're doing? And why are you passionate about that? And then let them talk. Because I'm telling you guys, you're going to learn stuff about their business. You're going to learn stuff about them as a person. You're going to learn stuff about their family, their kids. And ultimately, where you want to go is you're going to learn stuff about their core desires and their inner dialogue. And that's what you want to know. Okay. So asking that question, so, hey, what's your story? Is a very refreshing question that flat out works. It's non-salesy, that gets a dialogue started. You can do that with people on the street. And I did this. In fact, I was talking to a guy the other day. He was one of these guys who was out sitting on his chair, and I asked him his story. I found out he was a veteran of foreign wars. And, he had gone down on his luck, and, he's in one of these shelters, and he's working to make his way back, and he has a couple kids. He's got 2 daughters that are grown in the area. And, we talked for 15 or 20 minutes. And you know what? I said, hey, brother, keep the faith. You're doing good. Shook his hand and all that, patted him on the back and stuff. And, guys, here's the thing. It doesn't take a lot to make someone's day. And that is, to me, that is the same thing as what you do when you're selling. It's the exact same thing. Okay. So get good at just talking to people, asking them what their story is, finding out a little bit more about them. Forget about their wallet. Forget about the sale you're going to make. We talk about this in the story selling formula. Anything you're selling is not what you're selling. What you're selling is the connection with their inner dialogue and their core desires. Okay. So, if you want to know more about that, ask questions here, and I'll explain some more about what that all is too as well. All right, we're going to go over to Elizabeth. So Elizabeth she says, what would you do if you gave someone with stage 3 cancer the water several times? They like the water. They call me for the water, but they keep on saying they have no money to buy the ionizer. This person has 9 children. Okay. Well, there are different types of people out there, and I'll go into this is, in fact, I talk about this in the top 6 reasons why people don't buy and what to do about it. So you should get this report. It's absolutely free of charge. It's a good one. One of the 6 reasons is affordability. I can't afford it. Money is typically tied to belief. Okay. Now, with that said, though, from what Elizabeth you're saying, there are people out there that they flat out just can't afford what you have to offer. Even if you financed it and they had good credit and they could go to Chase and get the platinum credit card and it was $43 a month, they still can't afford it because they're on a fixed income or they're just not making ends meet. They're barely making enough to put food on the table. So then, Elizabeth, you have a choice to make. Well, do I want to do this as just a philanthropic thing and help them out, because this person has cancer and I just want to make sure that they're okay? Or am I going to cut the water off? I mean, I can't answer that for you. That's totally your call. That's totally your decision and how you feel about that. But those people, if they have, from a little bit you're saying is if they have no money and they have 9 children, they probably really don't have any money. So there's not much you can do there. Those people, you want to help them. I have people like that I help. I just give water to, and I don't really ask them about the machine because there's no way they can afford it. Okay. This is all though about attracting the right kind of person. Elizabeth, if you, one of the things you can do is email me at crocbrain@gmail.com. I have a webinar that I did. I don't know if you were on or not, but I did it. It was called Attract the Angels, Repel the Devils. And if this is the Elizabeth that's in our story selling class, about angel avatars or your ideal client, you want to identify the right kind of person and go after those people. And those are the people that have the money that can afford to buy your machine. I'm not saying that you shut out all the other people that can't. You might spend a percentage of your time helping those people, Elizabeth, but you don't work for free and you can't do everything for free. Okay. And I get that. So the key thing is this person may be somebody that just can't afford it. So you'll have to make a choice of whether you want to continue or not on that. I can't really make a judgment on that. But going back to money as belief, if you read in the report what I say in there, a lot of times there's two reasons. This is 2 other things in this report on the top 6 reasons is they don't believe you. Okay. They don't believe what you're saying. That's one reason. They don't have belief. And remember I said, if they can't afford it, money is tied into a belief typically. Okay. The second is they don't believe they can get the result that you're saying. Now, with Kangen Water, that's a little bit better because you can have them try the water and prove it to themselves. Okay. So it's different than other kinds of businesses. Like if you're a contractor or a financial planner or a fitness instructor, and we have some people on here like that. So that's a little different because you have to get them to believe that they can do what you are asking them to do with your product or service. Okay. So having a sample, that's why software, they have a trial period, having a trial period for your product or service, or being really good at, getting into the mind of the customer so they perceive what you're telling them can help them. So remember, I talked about the 3 levels of influence. You have level 1, which is what you say about your product or service. That's the lowest level. Level 2 is social proof and community, what others say. That's testimonials. That's all the Facebook comments and all that stuff you see. Level 3, it's the highest and most powerful level of influence, and that is what they believe they can get from your product based on what you're telling them they can get. Okay. And that's why when I work with all you guys, especially products I sell, I tell people, okay, I'm going to give you a piece of this. Now go try and prove it to yourself, because I know when you do that and you prove it to yourself, you're going to come back and go, oh my gosh, this thing, it really works, and I want more. Okay. So money is tied to belief. You have to do a good job of getting credibility, not only for yourself. Okay. So they have to believe you. And that we have a story we call the Herald story, which ties into your story, your emotion, what you went through, for relatability and believability. But then also they have to believe they can get the result that you're looking for. Okay. So like in Kangen water, here's an example. I've used this before. If someone has high cholesterol and you ask them, well, why are you trying this water? And they tell you they have high cholesterol, and you say, okay, how about this? How I ask them, how important is your health to you in lowering your cholesterol? Now, most everyone's going to say it's really important. And then you say, well, why is that important? And then you may say, well, I don't want to get heart disease and have a heart attack and die. And I might add, well, yeah, and that would be bad because you wouldn't be around for your family, your kids, and your grandkids, right? And they go, yeah. So I'm tying it with some emotion. And we might delve into that a little bit more to really tie the emotional content to that. But then I say, okay, since you told me your health was important to you and you don't want to have a heart attack, are you willing at the end of 30 days to go get your blood workup done to prove to yourself that this water actually lowered your bad cholesterol points and your triglycerides? Now they're going to say yes or no. Now, if to say no, then their health wasn't really important to them. There's not much you can do. But everybody I've asked that to, when I've done that line of questioning, go, yes, I'll do it. And yes, it's important to me. And then they have the test results at the end of 30 days, and they can see what's lowered. If they actually, do what they're supposed to do and drink this water, they're going to have some pretty good results. And again, you're not making any health claims. Why? Because they're testing it themselves and proving it to themselves. That's not a health claim. That's them doing it. Okay. There's a big difference. All right. So Elizabeth, I hope that that helps on that one. All right. Ivan had another question. What pH do you start new people on? Well, Ivan, I start everybody on 9.5. I'm a big shotgunner, but I do tell people that, hey, you may have headaches, you may have joint aches, you may have diarrhea. If you do, stop instantly or immediately. Text me or call me and we'll move you down. I give them a heads up that might happen. But I say, by the way, that's good news because you're really toxic. And now we really got to get you cleaned out. I read somewhere, guys, just, for, point of reference, like in your demos and things, the average human body is full of about 14 gallons of toxins, okay, in your cellular structure. So this is why we typically have the water go through the person for 30 days. And if they drink a half a gallon to a gallon a day, it takes about 30 days to replace that 14 gallons of toxins with 14 gallons of good water. You see, this is why things are changing and getting better. All right. So if you're dealing with a lot of elderly, frail people, probably, Ivan, I'd back them down to 8.5. But for most of the population, I just do 9.5. I mean, I learned that from Danny D. McCauley, and he does everybody 9.5 too. And yeah, I've had a handful of people that have had bad reactions, and I've lost one or two that, scared them and they didn't want to try the water again. That's okay. I mean, hey, it is what it is. But that's what I do. I don't, other people can chime in here and say what they do. So that's all good. Okay. Patricia says, Ivan, I hope that answers your question. So Patricia says, great advice. When you show people you care, that is the key. Yes, you got it, Patricia. And that's why I'm glad I think you're in the story selling course too. And that's the thing is, the thing is, that old stupid cliche. I don't really like cliches, but the cliche of, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. There is some truth to that. That's why these cliches exist. And really, the relatability, the credibility, the trustworthiness comes most from showing that you care and that you are vulnerable and that you have a story that they can relate to, more than credibility comes from you do all of this, speaking around the world, and you have this big highfalutin business, and you have all these people that you've helped and got X number of results. I'm telling you, it is more powerful because it connects at the basic human DNA level with people. Okay. That is more relatable. That is more credible. That is more trustworthy when you do that. So I hope you guys are kind of getting that. And I keep drumming that into your heads because I'm telling you, this works. It really works. And by the way, if you're looking for business builders for your team, when you are bringing people on and you're like that, people can go, wow, I could talk like that. Unless they're, emotionally devoid. You're not being slick. You're not being some salesy person. You're not being some encyclopedia with all this knowledge and facts. Are going, well, that's great for you, but there's no way in heck I can remember all that stuff that you're saying. So I stopped doing that a long time ago. You just relate to people. You talk to people. You keep it simple. You ask a lot of questions and you shut up a lot and listen and let them talk to you. And I'm telling you, that is the most powerful way to sell. Okay. All right. Robin says, my 10th very skeptic chiropractor is not even interested in dialogue. Suggestions appreciated to get past this huge challenge so I can mirror them and get them interested in learning more about King and Water. Okay, so Robin, you know what? These goofball doctors, a lot of them are all the same. Yeah, you know what? Here's what you do. This is what I do, because you have nothing to lose right now, because the lady or man's not interested. They're not even interested. So what I would do is, let's say the guy's name is Dr. Smith. You go up to Dr. Smith, say, I know you don't even want to hear about this King and Water, but you know what? My fear is that you're going to pass up on a really good opportunity. And I really don't want you to do that. I'm not interested in coming here to sell you anything, but I'm coming here because I'm trying to understand, what is it about this water that makes you so adamantly against it? And then be quiet and let them tell you. Okay. So again, if you notice what I said is, my biggest fear, or my fear is, you're being vulnerable to that person. You're connecting with them, not on a King and Water salesperson to chiropractor level. You're connecting with them on a human being to human being level. Let's strip the titles away. Okay. So if you notice, I said, I'm coming here because I'm really kind of curious. This is my biggest fear. And I'm not here to sell you anything, and nor really do I want to. I just don't understand why you're so adamantly against this. So maybe you can help me understand that. And, we'll part ways. I'm not trying to convince you of anything or talk you into anything. Just be totally forthright, totally vulnerable, express your fears, express your curiosity and concerns. And that's kind of refreshing for people. Okay. So Robin, I would try that and see what happens. Because right now, what do you have to lose? You have a no. I mean, here's the thing, Robin. If you want, send me an email at crocbrain@gmail.com. I got a really good testimonial from one of the chiropractors that I deal with out here. He talks all about the water and why it's good for the body and the nervous system from a chiropractic standpoint. And any of you guys, by the way, if you want that, I'll send it out to you. But you got to send me an email at crocbrain@gmail.com. And in the subject line, just put chiropractor testimonial, and I'll send that out to you free of charge. And you can use that. That can help if you want, if you're talking to chiropractors. Okay. Elizabeth says 9 grown children, adults. Okay. Well, so Elizabeth, going back to that person, if they're all grown and they're out of the house and they don't have any things on that. So then I would just go at it of, okay, if they have 9 grown children, then really it's just about, they say they can't afford it. So you can go back to, let's say the guy's name is Gary and he's got stage 3 cancer. You say, hey, Gary, My biggest fear, I know you have cancer, and my biggest fear is that we're not doing everything we can to help you get better. And can I ask you a question, Gary? And then pause. And when Gary says, yeah, say, Gary, what keeps you awake at night about this cancer? What scares you to death about it? Okay. And then let him tell you. Okay. Again, Elizabeth, he's going to tell you that's his inner dialogue, what's going on. Okay. And say, Gary, look, here's the thing. Whether you buy our machine or not right now, the key thing is for you to stay on the water. Now, Gary may not fit within your time frame of getting a machine sold in 30 or 60 days. Gary might take 4 or 5 or 6 months. I had a lady that had breast cancer, and I say had, past tense. It was about 5 or 6 months before she bought her machine, okay? Because she had to drink it for a while to see the results, go back to the doctor and things like that. So again, you got to remember that while you want them on your time frame, sometimes that's not reality and it doesn't work out that way, especially people with cancer who have aggressive cancers. Sometimes it takes a while. So if you want to stick with them, Elizabeth, that's your choice. And it may take a while longer. And for him, if it's him or her, I don't know, but for that person to get better. And obviously, if they're getting better, they're not going to want to get cancer again. There's a high chance that they're probably going to figure out now the belief system is changed because money's tied to belief, and there's more likely to buy the machine. Okay. So that's a way to go on that one. All right. Bud and Sandy said, so true. Money is tied to belief. So many have said they can't afford it, but spend the money on vacations, etc. Yep. So guys, here's the thing. Read this report. What I would say to do is your homework is this. Get this report, read about they can't afford it. That's one of the 6 reasons. And actually get a blank piece of paper and write out how are you going to address how they can't afford it. Okay. Now, I have a way I do that, and I use what I call price and value metaphors. And if you want to know about that with price metaphors, when people ask me how much the machine is, and I tell them, they say, well, it's expensive, I can't afford it. If you guys are interested, I'll go through and tell you what I say if you'd like to hear that. And it's a price metaphor or a value metaphor. Okay. These are powerful metaphors that can get over the price thing. All right. But again, those metaphors will only work though if they already have some belief in you, and they have belief in that this product, this water that you guys are talking about, can actually get the result that they're looking for. Okay, so that's where that's where the rubber hits the road. David, hey David, good to have you on. You have a question. What are some good ways to armor all yourself against rejection? Armor all yourself against rejection. Well, nobody likes to be told no. You know what, guys, in all the years I've done selling, I don't even like to be told no. I don't like rejection. I just, I'd rather get yeses and things like that. So what I did is years ago, I went out, David, and I figured out ways to talk to people so that it was rejection free, so that I wouldn't get told no a lot. So, things like, hey, can I ask you a question? Or, so what's your story? Or, I'm really curious. Can I ask you a question? Or something like, I have this really interesting story I want to tell you. You want to hear it? And then I get into some things that are related to, what the water is. But I don't walk up to somebody cold and go, hey, I have this story to tell you. And, then I tell them about this water. I ask them, I get them into a conversation to find out more about them. And it may be I have to talk to them in 2 or 3 separate meetings before I finally get to a point where I can say, I've got this water and I have a story I want to tell you about this water. It's pretty interesting. Would you like to hear it? And by that time, they're ready to listen. Okay. And by doing those kinds of things to keep the sales filter down. David, I don't know if you're in the Croc Brain selling formula, but I have a whole dozen conversation starters that basically are rejection free. They don't embarrass or pressure, and they connect with the inner dialogue of the person to a point where you're not going to have to worry about getting all these no's. So David, if you want to find out more about that, the other thing you can do, David, is also, if you want to learn, you want to find out more about the Croc-Brain selling formula, just send me an email at crocbrain@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link out, and you can watch the introductory video. The other thing you can do too, and all you guys out there, if you go to my website at crocbrain.com, there's a really good book I wrote called The Cell Effect. You can get it. You can. It's free of charge there. And in the first part of it, there's a brain science introduction, neuroscience to selling, brain science 101, and what actually goes on in the brain during a purchase decision. Not all the stuff we've been led to believe over the years. This is based on actual neuroscience of what's gone on in the last decade with neuroscience technologies that I've kept up on. So there's a good portion in that book, David, that talks about how the croc brain is the filter mechanism and shuts this all down, and what causes you to get all these no thanks, I'm not interested, or if you're in retail, no thanks, I'm just looking, all those kinds of things. And I've got some good stuff up on my website, or you can go to my Facebook page. It's Croc Brain if you look it up. There's some great videos and things up there about all that stuff too. You know, as long as you're there, please like the page. You know, so I know you're there, and you'll get it in your news feed, because I am posting more often up there too as well. So that's my answer to you, David, is it's all about how you're coming at it initially. It will change as you get better and you learn how to talk to people in a rejection-free way. Okay. Elizabeth says, thanks, Peter. Well, you are welcome, Elizabeth. Bud and Sandy said, well, I tried to download the report, it won't give it to me. Well, they know it's because the report knows it's you, Bud and Sandy. No, I'm just kidding. It says you're already subscribed. Okay, well, here's the thing. Bud and Sandy, just send me an email, and I'll send you the report to you. I'll attach it and send it to you so you got it. It's pretty good. Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Catherine says, a relative believed in benefits of ionizer, but bought cheaper competitor machine based on looks and cost. Boy, isn't that always the truth? Would you try to show them that King Water is better, or just stop talking to them about it? Well, I'd probably go light their house on fire. I'm just kidding. But you know what, guys? Here's the thing. You're going to get this all the time. Now, where the trip up occurred is at the very beginning, when you're building value for why the King and Water machine is better than all the competitors out there. Okay. So that's really what happened. Is, I'm not trying to get on you, but it was your own downfall in building the value up at the very front so that you dealt with that. So here's what I would do. Catherine and everybody listening that's in King and Water, if you guys want a really good way to stop that from happening or to minimize it, if you go out on YouTube and Google Dr. Donaldson. Dr. Donaldson has some very good videos. I know Dr. Donaldson. He's a good guy. And in one of his videos, he talks about electrolysis and the competitors. It's a great video that talks about why our machines are superior to the competitors. He talks about all of the solid plate versus the mesh, the square inches, the conductivity, how you know, the antioxidants and the microclustering is tied to that with the splitting of the molecules, but he does it in a very layman way. Okay. So it's not hugely technical. So that would be something you'd probably want to give to everybody at the very beginning, so they understand why the Enagic machines are superior to a competitor's. Okay. Now with this thing, what you can do is check in with them every 6 months and see how their machine is doing. Because I don't know what they bought, but a lot of times those machines break down or don't work. Now, the other thing you can say too is it relates to service. And I learned this from Jerry Kostica. You guys all know Jerry, and that is most all these machines, if not all of them, don't have service center, any kind of service center here in the U.S. You have to send them back to Asia. So this is how I handle that. When people ask about that, I say, well, you know, all the competitors don't have any service locations here. They might say that they do, but they ship them back to Asia to be fixed. So let me ask you, can I ask you a question? Again, can I ask you a question? Because you want to get, I call those brain freezers. You want to refocus their brain and focus their attention on what you're going to say now. When they say yes, you say, let's say I was a car dealer and I had a car like a Mercedes Benz and it was half price. Okay. And the car had all the features and bells and whistles, but there was one problem with the car. And I told you, I said, it's a great price. It's just the same as a Mercedes Benz. But the only problem is if the car breaks down, there's no auto mechanic that can fix it here in the US. Are you okay with that? Now, I mean, what are people going to say? No. And they start laughing. I go, well, that's really what's happening between our machine and their machine. So if you're okay, if your machine goes south and breaks down, then no one can fix it here in the US. You got to ship it to Asia and you don't know if you'll ever get it back. Well, go for it. But I don't buy products that way. And I would say to them, have you ever bought a product like that? And if they're going to say, what they're going to say is no, then say, well, why would you buy a water machine like that? Okay. So Catherine, I hope that helps. There's nothing you can do now, but for the future, make sure that you get that Donaldson video in front of them. But you also can do that kind of questioning and line of reasoning with them too, because then they'll get it right away. Okay. You know, people aren't stupid. They're pretty smart consumers. But, you know, they've been hoodwinked by all that garbage that's up there. So that's how I counteract it. Robin says, like that. Thank you so much. You are welcome, Robin. Okay, Bud and Sandy said, please share the price metaphor. Okay, here's the price metaphor. I've shared this a few times before, and I'll share it again here. So this is when someone comes up to you, and this is another 6 reasons is, I can't afford it, right? So here's how you handle it, Bud and Sandy in the King and Water world. So when I'm very proud that the machine's $4,000, and I'd be proud if it was $10,000. I don't really care because it's a great investment, okay? Because you only have one body. And I'll tell you what I tell them in this, and I tell it in a story. And so when people say, well, how much is this machine, right? People ask that at the very beginning. Why? And I talk about it in that report. They do it because they have no basis to build value. So the most ingrained in us is value is tied to price, right? We know that. So when they say that and ask that question, I say, well, the machine's $4,000 and it's a bargain. And here's why. Would you like to know why? And they go, yeah. So I'm redirecting, and I told them it's a bargain right out front. I don't beat around the bush at all. I say, well, let me ask you, can I ask you a couple questions? Okay. So again, I'm getting their focus and attention. So then I say, hey, so have you ever bought a car? Now, you know, if you're speaking to an adult, yeah, they bought a car. Say, well, you know, last time you bought a car, you know, what'd you pay for it? Would you mind, you know, sharing that? And they said, well, I paid $25,000. I said, okay, great. So you paid $25,000 for your car. I said, so have you ever bought a house, or do you pay rent or have a mortgage now? Because I mean, people have to live somewhere, right? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, so what's your mortgage about? You know, $1,100, $1,300, $2,000. You know, about what's your mortgage every month? So they'll tell me, because these are not highly personal questions. Okay. So they say, well, it's $1,400 a month. I said, okay, so help me understand this. So you're willing to spend $25,000 on a car, and if you even had, maybe it was a couple $100 a month on a payment if you financed it, you're willing to spend $1,400 a month. So you're willing to spend $25,000 in a car to drive in. You're willing to spend $1,400 a month for a place to sleep in. But you're not willing to spend $4,000 for the only body you get for your whole life. And if you have a catastrophic illness, it's going to cost you hundreds of times more than $4,000. Now, when I pause, just like I did with you guys, and I stop and I look at them, and most everybody looks at me and they go, wow, I never thought about it that way. That is a price value metaphor. Okay. When they say, wow, I never thought about it that way, you have just hit them between the eyes with a price value metaphor. Now they understand the value of this machine. Now, you guys, here's the thing. I would highly advise all of you guys to go out to Google and do some research and find out exactly what the average cost of a cancer treatment is. Okay. And this is with people who have good insurance. Let's say they have good insurance that covers 80% catastrophic and 20% they have to cover out of pocket. Well, I looked at somewhere, I did some of my research on my own. You got to verify it for yourself, but that number was right near $500,000 that was out of their pocket. This is why the #1 cause of bankruptcy is catastrophic illness for baby boomers. So you can, once you do the research, you can even say, look, I did some research in Google and found out the average cost of cancer, even after your insurance kicks in at 80%, is somewhere around $500,000. So you do the math, 500,000, 4,000. Which would you choose? Okay. You see, if you put it that way, it makes a lot of sense to them. And like, holy smokes, that's really that's a value metaphor. That's really a good value. It's only $4,000. That's cheap. Okay. That's why I say it's a bargain if you go through and do that. So Bud and Sandy, I hope that, and everybody else listening, I hope that helped. Debbie says you're too funny. It's probably the light in the house so far. All right. Patricia. Patricia says, Catherine, no joking. That's why I'm learning for Peter. We have to get past these problems. I believe in his teachings. Okay, maybe there's something going on there. I don't know what that means. But yeah, I'm giving you stuff that's really been around. I mean, good people who grow businesses. I'm not talking about salespeople. I'm talking about good entrepreneurs, good people that grow businesses, good people that know how to be good orators from stage. I mean, you look at all the TED Talks, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Donald Trump, you look at all the people of our day. If you go back to, I studied Andrew Carnegie, I studied David Ogilvy, who made, I think, $1.6 billion in advertising through Ogilvy and Mather, through the advertising agency. I studied Henry Ford. I studied all these guys throughout time. I've read tons and tons of books. If you boil it down to the essence of what is the power that drives growth in business, it is selling and marketing. And what is the power that drives that? It is the messaging. And what is the messaging that drives all that? It is the stuff I'm teaching you. It is connecting with these people on an humanistic inner dialogue level. That's what works. That if you go, guys, if you want to look up David Ogilvy, go look at all of his advertising he did. He used to advertise for lots of big companies in the Wall Street Journal and all over the place. Read his ads. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. This is not, guys, the only thing I've added to it now is the neuroscience aspect, because I like technology and I've studied that. And I put in, a lot of hundreds and hundreds of hours into research in this and understanding how the brain works and, all the stuff I teach in the Croc Brain Selling Formula. But what I'm telling you here about basic messaging, basic selling, basic marketing, this is as true today as it was 100 years ago. Why? Because people are still people and the human brain is still the brain. And I've traveled all over the world, and you can go anywhere you want in the world. I don't care what country you go to, what ethnic background, what language. When you start talking about the basic human condition, it is all the same. And what they long for and what their core doubts and fears are. I've been to the slums of India, and I've been all over Asia, and I've been all over South America, and I've been all over Europe. I've been just about everywhere. And I'm telling you, it is all the same. It is common. This is why, if you believe religion or don't believe religion, it is, you look at all the stuff in all the different books in, the Quran, in the Torah, and the Bible. I mean, the messages, very, very similar. Okay. And we're not going to get into that whole thing, but guys, this is the common aspect of the human condition. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go to, get off my little bully pulpit there. Let's see. K-Hal, he says, also, Peter, as for Catholic questions, if they were drinking Kangen water, tell them don't blame the technology when the cheap machine's water doesn't provide the benefits they receive from the water. Yeah, from a Kangen water unit. K-Hal, you are right on, brother. He's my brother from Hawaii. I love that, man. Well, and here's what happens. A lot of the machines, they add minerals to make the water alkaline too, which is, I just told you, is not good for you. You can do the research on that. Adding minerals like that to water, minerals in water, that's a whole different thing because nature put them in. Adding minerals, man-made, not good. That's not nature's way. Okay. So K-Hal's exactly right. All right, Patricia, did you see my comment about 9.5? No, I didn't, Patricia. I'm not sure where I saw Ivan's, but I'm looking back down through here and I don't see it. So Patricia, would you add that again, please? I don't know where that is. Debbie says someone believes that Kangen water machines split the water with chlorine and now concerned about drinking it. Well, we know that that's not true. If you want to, I don't know if you, Jerry Costiga stuff, if you go to King and Water. What is it? King and Water Info One, I think it is. .com, or look up Jerry. Just Google Jerry Koska, and you'll see his website. He's got. I use his magazines, man. They're good, and you can give these. I give them out to people every week. There's a different magazine I give to them, and it really educates them on, all the stuff about how these machines work, how the water, comes out, what the principles of this, the alkaline, antioxidant, microclustered is, all that kind of stuff. And that does a lot of heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to sit there and be an expert on all that, nor bore them with all the details. So that's what I do. Elaney, good to have you on, Elaney. I think you're maybe new or first. I'm not sure, but I'm glad to have you here. Elaney says, we are giving the water to several friends. They love the water and have seen great results. They ask for the water. It has been several months now. How do you bring up them buying the machine for themselves? Well, what you do, first of all, Elaney, is you always tell them at the very beginning, I'm giving you this water for this many days or weeks, and at the end of the time, then I'm going to stop, and then you can decide whether you'd like to purchase the machine or not. Is that okay? And you're willing to tell me no, yes? And if they say, yep, then you got an initial commitment. Now, obviously, you didn't do that because you're delivering water to them for months. So what you have to do, Elaney, is you got to do now the work of saying, this is what most King and Water people fall down on, is they don't know how to ask for a sale. So you have to say, okay, I've delivered this water for several months now, so I have to stop because your time is done. So it's your choice to buy the machine or to not drink the water anymore. That's really up to you. So I'll let you make that choice. What would you like to do? So if they say, well, yeah, okay, I'd like to buy the machine. Can I get the paperwork? Or they say, no, I don't want it anymore. You say, okay, great. I'm glad you tried it. Thank you for doing that. I'll check in with you from time to time to see how you're doing. This is where when you're going to find, Elaney, when you're cutting people off, they're going to come back because they're going to start feeling really crummy. And if you ask anybody in here who's been doing this business for a while, they will tell you that is true. And so then they'll come back to you and go, I'm not really feeling all that good anymore. How do I get one of those machines again? That's really how it happens. Okay. But make sure you set that up at the very beginning. You should have a qualification procedure. And I'll tell you what, we can go through all that stuff. Maybe we'll have a special, in another couple of weeks, we'll have a special King on all the stuff I do to qualify up front, the things I say, the questions I ask, the stuff I give people. If that would be interesting to you guys to go through the process I go through from the time I meet somebody to the time I close them, if you think that would be helpful for you, just put yes, type in the chat box yes, and I can do that in a couple of weeks. We can go through that whole process. So Elaney, that's what I would do, is just cut them off. And again, Elaney, if you're worried about doing that, that's because you probably don't have that many prospects in your pipeline. So I always tell my team members, if they're worried about cutting people off because they don't have that many, go find 5 more prospects. It's called prospect clawing. You're clawing at the ones you do have because you don't have very many. Okay. So you just got to go get more. Catherine, kingandoneinfo.com. Thank you, Catherine. That is Jerry's website, and he's got his magazines up there, and they're very good. The health and wellness one is what I start with. All right. Robin says you have to leave. Okay. You are welcome, Robin. Great questions, everyone. Thank you. I learned a lot. Be with you next time. She had to take off. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be shutting it down here pretty soon. It's already 9:02 or 6:02 where I live. Okay. Patricia says, wow, Peter, trust me. Do not start a fibromyalgia person on 9.5. Their husband will come over to see you and he will not be happy. Okay. Hey, good. Lesson learned. I actually had a fibromyalgic person I did start at 9.5, and she was okay. Her name was Cindy, and she actually bought a machine. But I'm sure it's like case by case. So yeah, if they have a bad disease condition, maybe, like I think Ivan asked that question, start them at 8.5. So yeah, you don't want their husband or wife showing up on the porch with a stick and wanting to beat you to death. So that's not a good thing. All right. Okay, Debbie says, yes, would be helpful. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, for the process for sharing. So, all right, good. Okay, there's a couple people that are peeling off here, so we're getting near the end here. Is there anybody else that has a burning question before we go? And so I'll just go through the next time we get on, look for my emails again. Don't forget to get your report here, guys. This one on the top 6 reasons why people don't buy and what to do about it. It's a good one. You can either click on the big yellow button in the pop-in section here on here, or just type in this http://bit.ly. I hope you wrote this down, bit.ly/no buying. And you'll get into the page that looks like this, and then you can put in your name and email address, and then it will get you the report. And Bud and Sandy, just send me an email at crocbrand@gmail.com, and I'll attach it to the email tomorrow morning for you guys. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. It always goes a lot faster than we all want it to, but I hope you got some good questions answered, and some of the questions that other people asked that you learned from that as well. We'll shoot for a couple more weeks from now, so that would be on let's see, what is that, 11/18. So we're still outside of Thanksgiving, so we'll shoot for 11/18. I'll go through my process of, you know, how I get people introduced to the water, build value, and do all that kind of stuff, and deal with these 6 reasons why people don't buy, if that's helpful for you. So with that, guys, good night, everybody. I'm glad to have you on. It was very a lot of fun. And remember, this will be a replay recording. You're going to get it when this thing is over. So with that, I wish you guys all a good evening and a good rest of the week, and we will be in touch again in the next couple weeks. Good night.